Hey guys, welcome to CenterMass TV. I'm your host, Jake Zeke. Still doing things from home. Had a bit of family drama come up, and we'll talk about a little bit more of that. Today we didn't really have a lot of things to go over. We kind of had just one subject that we wanted to touch on. And so I'm going to roll the intro here, and we'll get right into it. Hey guys, again, Jake from CenterMass TV. Great to have you here. Um, just wanted to talk about some things that have been going on, kind of keep this casual. We're still not in the studio. Just to give you a little bit of info on that, my wife was actually hit by a dump truck. Pretty sketchy situation. So she's been having different procedures done on her back, things like that. And so I'm kind of homebound for a little bit. Want to make sure that she's being taken care of. But alas, getting into the show here, we want to talk about something that hit really hard, really in these last couple of weeks. Trucking safety seems to be overlooked. We just recently had just a freeze come across the entire nation, and all I can find when I'm searching for news and developing stories and things like that are the accidents, the deaths, the pileups, the lawsuits, the all the things that have gone wrong during this situation. Not a lot went right. And so we started looking into this, started trying to figure out what exactly went wrong, why this has happened. And ultimately, it's just that across the industry, there is no precedence for this. There is no guideline for this. You know, we see Highway Patrol and CPD and local jurisdictions and state jurisdictions, and we see things like, hey, you know, your dispatchers will put out a warning and say it's going to be unsafe. Carriers have put out warnings, and there's a lot of those kind of things that go on. But ultimately, what we put ourselves in the situation of is truckers have to get from point A to point B, and they're paid to get from point A to point B. And so if there's a delay in getting from point A to point B, generally that falls on the trucker. We see pay decreases, we see penalties, we see situations where drivers just aren't getting paid for those emergency situations that are ultimately not their fault. And so I dug in and I started really looking into this and trying to find if there was anything that could protect truckers in these situations, and there's really nothing. There's nothing that can help them. It's ultimately up to carriers, and some of those carriers choose to let the fallback go back on their employees, unfortunately. And so I think that's why we see a lot of truckers attempting these loads. They're attempting these runs when they know the weather is inclement, when they know that there are issues that could be safety issues, and they're willing to risk it, and that's because they need to make ends meet. They need to make money. They need more than that hour or two standby pay that's available. They need those things from their carriers, and they need those things to be standard across the board. And unfortunately, it's not. And so while looking through the news, like I said, all I saw was accident after accident after pileup after pileup after death after accident after death after death after it was just this constant stream of a problem. And I don't understand why it's not being addressed. I don't understand why transportation secretaries for the past and our new transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, can't look at these situations and go, we have a very common denominator here. Inclement weather is something that no one can control. What we can control is our speed, our awareness, and our ability to say, hey, this is too much, let's pull off the road. You've got wind, you've got ice, you've got snow, you've got rain, you've got a million different things that can go wrong. And in those situations, we need to make sure that we do the right thing. I think in order to do the right thing, there needs to be a come to Jesus. And there needs to be a come to Jesus within truckers and government to form a legislation that comes out and says, when there is a state of emergency, when there is a situation like this, we should still get paid. You should. The essential nature of truck drivers, the essential nature of freight, it's what keeps America moving. It's what keeps America going. It keeps consumerism. It keeps capitalism at its height. It is the ultimate network of getting something from point A to point B so people can buy it. The profits that are made off of those, the extensive transportation profits that are made in that situation, I don't understand why there isn't safety, why there isn't something in reserve set aside for situations like this. There is no reason that you, as an essential worker, as a hero, as someone that is so essential to the framework of the United States and how it works, should not be able to pull off, stop, keep yourself and other people alive without the penalty of not making ends meet at the end of the day. It's risk versus reward, and unfortunately there's not a lot of reward that comes with being safe. The reward is making sure that you get from point A to point B. Safely is the goal. But sometimes when you're looking at those bills, when you're trying to make a mortgage payment, or you're trying to take care of insurance, or you're trying to take care of medical bills, or a situation that you weren't aware of, that sometimes that risk seems more worth it. What I suggest in these moments is that we take the opportunity to look at this from a perspective of what's going to happen in the future. When these accidents happen, when these things happen, the carriers are taken, the drivers are fired, and ultimately they're held responsible. The carriers work out a deal, and they keep rolling. It's drivers who get into those accidents. We all know what happens when you have an accident on your record. We all know that in those situations, then likely they pin it on you for not being safe. It can ruin your career. And while I find it easy for other people, even, transportation officers, highway patrol, to say, why didn't you just pull over? It wasn't worth it. They're not in your shoes. They're not trying to make ends meet. They're not doing it as a job. It's easy for them to say, just stop and be safe. It's easy for people to miss the entire point of that. And so, as truckers in this nation, as essential workers, as heroes, I think it's time to put the pen to the paper, to put the work, and say, hey, we demand that we be put on the front line, that we be put on the front burner, not on the back burner, that we be looked at as the heroes in transportation that we are. We look at it and we say, we need to make sure that in an emergency situation, not only can we be safe, but we can also take care of our families. We can also work. And if that work is sitting at a truck stop and getting paid hourly while the weather clears up, or sitting on the side of the road, jumping in the sleeper and waiting it out, and you get paid hourly for those situations, I think that's what should happen. Now, we do have standby pay. We do have those types of situations that arise, and a lot of carriers do take care of that. But I think traditionally, and I think across the board, it's not as many as we think that do. You don't get a bonus for that load being late. And even if you did, it's still puts you so far behind. You're losing another load and another load, and now you're just playing catch up and trying to get back to it. Taking a day off in trucking is very different from taking a day off at the office. You know how much you're going to lose. It's time to change this. It's time to demand that our transportation secretary, that our government, that the FMCSA put regulations in place to protect our truck drivers. Protect them. I know this sounds a little ranty, but it's what needs to happen. I have friends who are in trucking who tell me about these situations and tell me how their company preaches safety, but at the sacrifice of making their lives work, they have to make safety work. I understand safety. I understand the side of the highway patrol and civilians who get caught up in these accidents when truckers try to make it. I understand that. And they should be preaching safety, safety, safety as well, but not at the expense of your livelihood. So that's really what I have today. This is rather short. It's not very long. I don't feel like it really needs to be. But the awareness needs to be spread. People need to know what truck drivers do and the sacrifices that they make. Legislation needs to understand that safety and the security of a trucker's livelihood need to go hand in hand. Putting safety in front of drivers' home and their bills and their personal lives endangers the industry. It endangers it heavily. So that's all I really have today. I know it's not much, but I hope that you as drivers can understand that there's a lot of people on your side. There's people like me, there's people that are friends of mine, your families, your friends, that maybe they don't know why you made that decision. You had that house payment coming up. You had that car payment you had to make. You're behind on the electric bill. But they can't understand that the companies are making the wrong decisions and forcing you into a situation that you shouldn't be in. So with that, I am Jake Seek for CenterMass TV. It's great to all have you here. Please stay safe. Keep all 18 on the road. Till next time.